Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Qwerk video. Basically, this is a quick little breakdown on what Qwerks are, where you can find them, and generally, what the fuck do they do. Uh, Sometimes you read them and you're not 100% sure. This is just to kind of clear some things up. So first thing, you got different types. You have cooldown. Actually, you know what? Let's go with where you can find them first. You can always find them when you go to your mech lab. I have my mech lab up, specifically just my assaults, just to kind of take away the clutter. What you do is you actually hover over the mech, like you normally do, and you'll see on the right hand side, boom, it pops up. A little description of the mech, giving you all its hard points, upgrades, loadout, all that stuff. But below that is all this shit in green. Well, aqua. Those are Qwerks. Now, not all of them are going to be green. Some of them are red. Green is basically bonuses towards the mech, or positive Qwerks. Red are negative Qwerks. So, positive Qwerks would be something along the lines of what this guy has, pretty much all positive. They can be either weapon related or generic Qwerks. What we mean by generic Qwerks is something that'll just say ballistic cooldown, energy cooldown, missile cooldown, AMS cooldown, things like that. They'll just say a generic type of hardpoint, and they'll just give a generic overlook. Like for example, this one has energy cooldown and energy heat generation. So the first thing you're probably looking at and go, well, cooldown and heat generation, aren't they the same thing, right? Like when it generates heat, it has to cool down to fire. This is one of the first things I thought of when I read it. They're two different things. First off, cooldown is when you fire a weapon on the bottom right hand corner, you'll see the little bar fills up with that like orangey red shit. And it progresses from right to left. Once it gets all the way to left and the bar's empty again, you can fire. That's the cooldown. So what happens basically is for example for this guy, energy cooldown, basically your laser basically just reloads or recharges faster, and you can actually fire it again a lot quicker. In this case, an additional 12.5%. So, one quarter of a quarter, which, when you think about it, every 8 shots means you can fire an extra shot, theoretically, which can happen. So that's the way I look at it: is short term in a match when it comes to like cooldown and heat generation. It pays off always at the end of the match. When you get those extra shots off, you wouldn't. And you actually have that less heat as your heat generation is going up, as the match progresses, you have those extra, that extra little bit of heat that or space in your heat to fire that, extra alpha, or, fire off 2, large lasers at once to get the ghost heat, which I think they actually got rid of, so that's a bad example. But, 1 or 2 weapons that would cause heat a little bit more than normal, but you already know, okay, in the back of my head, I have energy heat generation minus 15%. The next one's laser duration, and large laser cooldown. So, laser duration is basically the actual amount of time your large laser, your pulse laser, your medium laser actually is out there. Meaning that when you fire it, you see that little beam. The blue beam, the red beam, the orange beam, the green one, whatever. You see it go from your mech to the target. You see it there usually a second or two, and then it goes away. Well, what this little duration Qwerk does is it actually reduces that time. So you still do that full damage that you're supposed to do. So if it says, 5 damage, when you hit the guy, boom, he's got 5 damage. But you gotta sit there for usually a couple seconds going, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, poof, your laser cuts out. And the cooling starts. Or the recharge of the laser starts. Well, this Qwerk actually reduces the time your laser is actually out there. Which has 2 positive things in my outcomes when I look at it. The first one is, the quicker you get your shots downrange, and then the quicker it can get to the cooling stage, we'll say, of the weapon firing, the later on, the more rounds you're going to be able to fire and put downrange. Again, really good, very, very, good long term. Now, large laser cooldown. Same thing as the other cooldown, but specifically weapon related. Some quirks you'll find are for specific weapons, which makes it so much easier. For example, the one there at the very bottom, LRM-15 cooldown. That tells me right now, if I put a large laser on this guy, and an LRM-15 up on this guy, and I came up against someone with one large laser and one LRM-15, they don't have the quirks, but I do. I already know that I'll be able to fire off, my weapons at least a quarter of the time faster. So for every 4 rounds each of us fire, I can fire that 5th round additional. Kind of wish I could roll my mouse over, but when you watch, it kind of goes away. So that's generally what the quirks are. Now, I did say there is a red one. The negative ones. I don't know if there's any on the direwolves here. There we go. So the direwolf B, for example, it has a energy cooldown negative modifier. So it's in red. 7.5%, meaning that if you fire an energy weapon, it will take an additional 7.5% for basically it to recharge. A lot of the ones I see are always mech specific, energy, just generic energy cooldown again, and this one's energy cooldown. So energy cooldown specifically for the direwolf. If I'm not mistaken, I believe most of them I've noticed. Here's another one for the Timberwolf. Turn torso rate, basically the rate it turns left to right, is reduced by 8%. So basically, as it turns slower left to right. And missile cooldown, meaning that the amount of time the missiles basically reload gets reduced. It's kind of their way of same thing with this guy. So, as I said, there are the positive ones, there are the negative ones. The quirks go for all things from just the things such as structure, how much structure you have in a specific mech. Basically, slots basically where you can throw on armor, extra weapons, equipment, heat sinks or probes or what have you, or you see them depending on the mech. All that stuff. So this is just, as I said, just a quick little rundown on what they are, what they do, things like that. So as I said, just to kind of sum things up, they're positive and both negative bonuses to your mech. I know negative bonus is always a bad thing, but they'll affect your weapon types. Believe me. One thing you will do is, and I will give you this little heads up, is build your mechs with the conscience of what the quirk is. So, for example, this grasshopper here, I built him specifically for the Tukid community warfare. You'll see, if you watch the videos, you'll see me running this guy a lot. I actually built him wrong. Very wrong. Actually, no, I did build him right. Never mind. Sorry, my bad. I built him all with lasers in mind. But I looked down specifically at all the slots here. So his acceleration's a lot faster. That's one reason why I picked him for the event. Second reason was because of the additional armor. I knew that he'd be able to soak up a lot of armor because those clan guys were going to put up a big fight. The additional structure gives you just additional room in that specific slot. So in this case, center torso. So I knew, okay, some of his energy slots are in the center. So with that extra room, I kind of put something heavy or something light, depending on what kind of engine or if I need to put a heat sinks or anything in there. Then I looked down further and it said energy cooldown. So I already know, okay, lasers are going to reload a lot faster. Energy heat generation's reduced as well by 12%. How's that one? Okay. We definitely now know that we're going to put energy weapons on this thing. Whether we put pulse or regular lasers are going to be the big deal. And the next one I saw was ER large laser cooldown. So right there that tells me we are putting ER large lasers on this guy. Hands down, 2 of them, no problem, are going on this guy. And then the next step was AMS range. Really didn't worry about that all too much. So what I did, I grabbed a pen, wrote down ER large laser, and energy, so I knew I want to put ER large lasers on this guy. Then I also then went energy cooldown, so I'm like all energy weapons. Max out. So what I did just that. Out of the 6 energy slots, all 6 are being used. Now and then you'll leave a slot unused because you need to throw in a heatsink or something like that. I knew with this guy specifically, with the Qwerks he has, with that especially that heat generation, that I can actually you basically use less heatsinks. Or what heatsinks I have are basically increased in their their efficiency was there. So put on there, and 1.2 is the heat proficiency on this mech, which is really, really good. Anything above 1 is good. So one thing, as I said, definitely play towards your mech strengths. The Qwerks are made to kind of give each mech its own little specialty, its own little idiosyncrasies. Kind of personalize it, but at the same time, you don't have to follow directly by what it says, hence why some of them are generic. Unlike this Thunderbolt here, this 5SS for example, energy range is increased, energy cooldown is decreased, so increased, so it cools down a lot faster. Heat generation by heat also good to go, it's reduced. And then missile cooldown also, if you want to put missiles on it. And then here's the last one, medium pulse laser range. So I would look at this and go, okay, so overall energy range is increased by 25%. Usually the range on those things is about, we'll say 300 meters or so. We'll look at that and go, okay, energy range is increased by 25%. The medium pulse laser range is also increased by 25%. They stack, meaning that one can go on top of the other. So we'll look at that and go, okay, so the range is now increased by 50. So if the range is 300, it's an additional 150. So now we're shooting people at 450 yards, or meters, we'll go with, because I believe that's how the game goes. So we already know 450 yards. If someone sees us and locks onto us with their radar or their sensors or whatever, it says medium pulse, they're going to be like, okay, no big deal. I'll stay within the 400 range and I'll be fine. Because he has all medium pulse. And even at 300, he won't be able to do the greatest damage to me. So 300 to 400 is usually where you want to run against someone with medium pulse, for example. But you have the Qwerk that puts it up to 450. Usually what I'll do is, with remembering the Qwerks I have, I'll use them to my advantage. So I'll fire off 1 or 2 medium pulse. The person will see it and realize, I got this guy at 400 meters. So they'll use their large lasers or whatever. And then you just get the person within 400, just about 400 meters or so. And then you just let loose and just start going. And believe you me, it can ruin a lot of days, a lot of nights, and a lot of people's minds. So as I said, they stack. Then also on top of that, energy cooldown is increased, and energy heat generation is increased. So yeah, we have to remember certain mechs. Yeah, I mean I can throw on a whole bunch of other stuff like large lasers on this guy, and I'll still have a 25% range increase. 15% cooldown rate, and then 15% heat generation loss. So yeah, I mean you can throw anything you want on there, but that medium pulse turns around and says, hey, pay attention to me. Like, you can put me on here and it'll be all good. So kind of makes you look left, makes you look right, and kind of makes you decide what you're going to do. Don't think there's any negatives. Yeah. Then some mechs, like my Mad Dog A here, don't have any Qwerks. So, but yeah, there you go. So just a quick little breakdown of Qwerks, what they do, where to find them, and a little hint. So as I said, when building a mech and personalizing a little bit, always remember what the Qwerks are, because in the end, the Qwerks really, really, really do have an effect. Even though most people are looking at it and go, meh, what's an extra 12%? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.